You're listening to Chem Stories, a podcast series created by people with lived experience of P&P chemsex.
Hello world, and welcome to all passengers. This is a pre-boarding announcement for all the upcoming flights from Chem Stories Airlines. My name is Captain Patrice, and on behalf of our flight crew, I'll be your guide on this journey alongside people with lived experience of P&P chemsex. Note that this podcast includes discussion on sex and drug experiences. Listener discretion is advised. Chem Stories was born from a research project. Before we proceed with boarding, here's a word from the principal investigator of this project, Olivier Ferlatte, who is a professor at the School of Public Health at the Université de Montréal.
Hi, I'm Olivier Ferlatte, and welcome to Chem Stories, a podcast where we explore the lived realities of chemsex, also known as party and play or P&P. The term chemsex usually refers to using drugs during sex, particularly among gay, bisexual, and queer men, as well as trans and non-binary people. But stay tuned. You'll hear directly in this podcast from people with lived experience and see whether that definition really fits. For Chem Stories, we worked for over a year with a group of 7 individuals who have first-hand experience of chemsex, our editorial board. Together, we talk, brainstorm, and decided how to approach this topic, from the tone and creative direction to the stories you'll hear. 3 of them even became hosts in their respective cities, and you'll get to meet them in the upcoming episodes. From the very beginning, it was essential that this podcast be truly by and for the community. But Chem Stories is more than a podcast. It's the result of a collaborative investigation into the lived realities of chemsex. Together, we set out to explore one central question. Why is it important for people with lived experience of chemsex to tell their stories in their own words? This question came directly from our editorial board. They saw it as vital because too often people with lived experience have been silenced, stigmatized, or spoken about rather than with. Through Chem Stories, they take back that space to speak for themselves and to be heard. So thank you for listening. In Chem Stories, you'll hear me in conversation with our local hosts, Bradley, Eric, and Andrew, and you'll also hear them having discussions with 20 people who have lived experience of chemsex, people who generously share their stories, reflections, and hopes. So buckle up and get ready to embark on this journey with us, a journey that challenges assumptions, amplifies voices, and opens up a new way of listening to stories that matter.
Before we depart for our first destination, YYZ Toronto, please join us in the community lounge to meet our Toronto guests. These conversations will set the stage for the next flights that are the upcoming episodes. Should you encounter turbulence while listening to this podcast, please refer to our list of resources and services related to chemsex in the episode description and on chemstories.ca. Thank you for choosing Chem Stories Airlines, where the journey is always a trip. Chem Stories investigator Olivier in conversation with Toronto host Bradley.
Chem Stories is all about people with lived experience sharing their stories in their own words. Why is that important for you?
I think it's important to tell our own stories in our own voices because, one, I think it's important to hear our voices. I think it's important to hear other gay voices talk about stuff and all of the range that those gay voices show up in, and not some voice that is, in a way, disembodied from the community, talking about the community. I think there is a lot for us to learn, even on subliminal and subconscious ways, about listening to gay men and queer men talk about their experiences. And I think it's also important to the idea of the value in people telling their own stories is it's not through the lens of somebody else. There's no filter where someone gives you a story, you edit it down and give little clips and then say, well, no, this part of the story is good, but it certainly led to HIV transmission. And this story, right? It's like there's a sort of baked in idea of trust when we share someone's story in those great big chunks in the way that it shows up. And I think it allows so many opportunities for learning and making meaning that it really excites me. I think there's a lot of value in that. Having said that, in the research that I'm now doing in my graduate studies, my advisor, she said, Brad, can we talk about this phrase lived experience? Isn't it redundant? Isn't experience lived? And she said, when we say lived experience, can it lead into tokenism? But are we sort of fetishizing having people with lived experience on board? Like, not a fetish in a sexual way, right? So sometimes I use experiences that are lived in certain communities because in the community, when we're talking about our experiences and the memories that we have, they're never under the category of lived experience.
Toronto host Bradley in conversation with Brian from The Balance Flight.
It seems that we're actually talking about why it's important for us to tell our stories in our own words, right?
Yes.
And why specifically your story in your words?
By talking about it, we are bringing it out of the shadows. Because if you live in the shadows, you die in the dark. And people don't understand. Chemsex is not deviant. It's not illicit. It's not dark. It can all lead there, but so can drinking and smoking and many other lovely vices we all carry. And if we bring it into the light, people will understand that it's not the end to do it. I mean, I know people that party once a month or once every 6 months. Are they still addicts? Are they still struggling with drug use? I'm not sure how to answer that. Because people get surprised that someone like me would get addicted starting at 55 and then have the courage, and that's their words, not mine, and the desire to get sober at early 60s. I thought I was tragically unique. There's nothing more dangerous than being tragically unique because that means there's no solution. You have to follow this road that no one else has ever followed. And that's very, very daunting when you're trying to make a change or you're trying to figure a new life choice out. And all of a sudden I see people that their stories are the same as mine. I've never met anyone who said getting sober or heavy use was easy. No one ever said that. But I do know it's easier if there's someone beside you. So sometimes the lifestyle and you stay hidden, you are really alone. And I read a poem the other day from someone. She was telling a story. Her friend called her. She didn't have time for him. She was busy. And he killed himself. And she said all he needed was 8 minutes. So as I was saying to Bradley the other night, if you ever need me, don't ask me, let's go for a walk. Because I may say, no, I may be tired. Say, no, I need 8 minutes. No matter what it is, I will drop and be with you. I would have never thought of that before I read that story. So I love having this phrase that if you can, drop what you're doing and I'll be there. That's what telling our stories does.
Toronto host Bradley in conversation with Jordan from the Inside Flight.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Why do you think it's important for us to tell our stories around partying in our own words?
If we don't tell them, somebody else is going to tell them for us. And I would rather get the story right and accurate from the person who experienced it than the horrible version that gets told out there in the universe. And also, we need to hear ourselves tell our own stories to make our reality real for us. Like I had a story told about my drug use for so long by so many other people, from sponsors and 12-step movements, from doctors, from clinicians, from rehab people. And that story was not who I was. And there was also something very jarring about that. And there was like these people who say that they understand and know me don't know me at all, right? So it was important for me to say in my own words who I am and what my story was, because it was a way of coming back to myself and affirming what I've experienced. And it makes it, it also made it possible for other people I know to come and tell their stories and to start to form that sense of community I was looking for. That I lost access to having a community when I left the world of recovery. And what I realized was I needed to go make a community for myself and create a community, and that community just looks different. And that community is people who use drugs in the PNP context. That's such a boring way of saying that. It's guys who party, and that's my community, right? They're my brothers. They're my brothers. They're my others. They're my they're my family. So that's my community, and that's why I tell my story. So
I really appreciate that. Actually, that's fair. Not actually, I really appreciate that because. Yeah, you're very thoughtful. And it's true.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Toronto host Bradley in conversation with Matthew from the Wisdom Flight.
Is there a specific reason why you think it was important, or why is it important to hear stories in our own voices?
It's important to hear somebody talk in a logical, sensical way who shares my experience, right? That there is hope for people who are street involved and who are drug addicted and what have you.
And
that
mental health intersections.
Yes, that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just to have the idea put forth that the medications work. Like, there's something there to be said that I think people can find strength in.
Toronto host Bradley in conversation with Reid from the Wisdom Flight.
And why do you think it's important to hear chem stories in being told in our own voices?
It's never too late to actually stop. It's never too late to understand what you're doing to yourself. I don't wish, if I had started this when I was younger, I might have stopped when I was younger, but I started when I was older. And it'd be so easy just to continue on going. And not currently, and not think of the repercussions.
Mm.
Yeah. So hopefully if somebody my age hears it or hears what's going on, they might think twice. They may not stop totally. May try, famous harm reduction if that's up to them, but at least have some sight into what it's actually doing to the whole system.
Toronto host Bradley in conversation with Christoph, Tyler, and Edwin from the Integrity Flight.
But you all talked about the importance of stories and your stories. Why is it important for you to tell some of your story or some of your 1 or 2 or 3 or however many of your stories in your own voice? Why is it important for us to tell our stories in our voice as drug users?
I think it helps, like, the youth of today, the youth that are coming up behind us, I guess. And we would hope that it puts them on the right track to having more careful drug use in their life and so forth.
Authenticity. I mean, coming from yourself. I mean, it's, you can only tell, no one can tell your story as well as you can tell your story, and really get to, the nitty gritty of details and what have you.
I think it will help break down some of the barriers between people that use and people that don't use, just because they'll hear us as normal people and then they won't judge us as, I don't know, freaks and the people that are on the mattress down the street, which is nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, I'm not that person. Neither is Christoph and neither is Tyler. We're all people that float above board and we have pretty managed lives, and our lifestyle does not 100% get taken over by the drug use. It's more like it's intertwined and embedded. I don't know, woven in gently.
To conclude this special introductory episode, Toronto host Bradley in conversation with Jordan from Inside Flight to discuss the origins of the central question behind our podcast. This question was developed during a meeting of the editorial board composed of people with lived experience of chemsex who helped shape this project.
We were in that meeting for this project, and that question was your question, which was why is it important to tell this in our own stories? So in that meeting, why was that so important for you to say?
I think what was coming out, I don't know, something just clicked to me when we were sitting in our group talking about that, and that's where the question came from. It was like, why is it? And I was curious about the answer, but I kind of also knew, I think, instinctively why it was important for us to tell our own stories in our own words. And it captured a lot of what other people were thinking and saying already. So it really is a reflection of everybody else's wisdom and intelligence that I just filtered into a succinct sentence that I could distill because I got to the heart of it, like, somehow. And it was just one of those moments. But I think I really want to know why it's important for people to tell their own stories in their own words. I want to hear what different people bring to that question. Because, like I said, I think there's a lot of value in us doing that. So which is why I think this project is so incredible and why I've been so excited to be part of it. I'm really glad that I get to be part of it now. Yeah, it's that was important to me. I really loved that experience. It was one of the best experiences I've had ever. It was a group of people going through that kind of work. It was really, really positive and really great guys in that group. So if you're listening to Chem Story, you can thank the wonderful people in that room that day.
It's true, actually.
Attention all passengers, Captain Patrice here. This is the final call for the next YYZ Sagacity flight. Chem Stories investigator Olivier introduces Bradley, who will share his own personal story, cabin doors are closing. More fascinating stories await. Subscribe to stay informed about upcoming episodes. If you've encountered turbulence while listening to this podcast, please refer to our list of resources and services related to PNP chemsex in the episode description and on chemstories.ca.